Why, hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Egg Wars. Fantastic to see you all. I know it's been quite some time. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and we're gonna hop right into it. I got a lot to talk about today, but before I do, we gotta go ahead and crack that sip, baby. Yes, indeed, I'm rocking with the Orange Monster sip today, and something very unusual today. I actually had this one refrigerated, which I don't typically do, but I know I'm not going in on a deep crack today. No pun intended in any kind of way, shape, or form there. I just meant that I'm opening it away from the microphone right now. There's a little more carbonation, I think, when you have it cold too. Nice. Alright, so as you know, I haven't made an Egg Wars in a few weeks, or a couple weeks, however long it's been now. So I apologize if I'm a little bit rusty here, but basically, why was I gone for a couple of weeks? If you don't follow me on social media, which I pretty much only use Twitter. If you don't follow me on Twitter, then I'll break it down here for you. So basically, for a week and a half or so, in this mid-April time, I was off in Los Angeles, California. Now, I had talked about this in an episode before, I think, that I was going to be going out there to be part of a film, but I was not specifying exactly when I was going to go out because it was a little bit, I think when I was talking about it originally, there was a little bit of openness to the time frame still. So, but I got it figured out, and I was out there, and so basically I am going to be in a film, and unfortunately I cannot really expand terribly upon the whole aspect of the film, what it's going to be about, and that sort of stuff, because I am under contract and I can't discuss it. But I'll give you a little bit of an idea of how it was out there for me. It was pretty good. I had a pretty good time out there. It wasn't quite like the couple times that I was out in California last year that I talked about back then. It was very work-centric when I was out there this time, because basically, I was everything was all covered. We got the times figured out, the dates figured out. I was sent the ticket for the flight, and once I got out to California, everything was everything was pretty much handled as far as it goes there. I just needed to be there, so I was there. I was given a place to stay. I was given, money for transportation and food. I was provided food even on top of that. It was a pretty nice thing. It was really probably the most official thing that I've done in terms of, film and, being in film and that sort of thing. Obviously, I worked with Sam Hyde for, I know we got some people that are, have been getting put on to me because of recent events, but he's a great comedian. He's a great guy. He's a fantastic guy. And even though that was pretty, professional when I worked with Sam, but it was just kind of on like a whole other level. We had like some real, the people that were working on it, there were some first time people working on this film, but also like some more seasoned, professionals who have, worked with some other films that are kind of notable. So, it was an interesting situation. It was, very, very interesting. And I'm thinking that the film is probably going to be released in sometime from a year or maybe like a year and a quarter from now. And I think I think I won't even have to mention it once I am able to do so and am able to talk about a little bit more of my part in the film. I think it's going to be a film that's going to really just it's going to surprise people, and I think people are going to know about me being in it. Probably I won't even need to say a whole lot. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But the experience was really unlike anything I've ever done before. There was when we were filming, there were some days where I was just sat down on set for hours at a time, several hours, with minimal, time for breaks for lunch and, water or bathroom break, whatever, things like that. But just, really, so when I filmed with Sam, I think we filmed for a few hours maybe, but, it was really a lot of improv and just kind of letting the cameras roll and doing our thing, where it is, with this, it was like, all right, just, this is what we're gonna talk about now, and boom, 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 just kind of, there were a little bit of scripting. Now, it was not actually entirely scripted, my part. There was some improv on my part, but it was a little more of just like a very professional type of situation, I guess. We went out to Venice Beach, did some filming out there. I was on Muscle Beach. I got kicked out of Muscle Beach because we were filming there. It was a pretty enjoyable time. So I was out there for a week and a half. So when we finished up doing this particular wrap up on this filming, I was still out there and I did some filming of my own as well. I got set up in an Airbnb and just was out there doing some work out there, and I'm going to have some videos coming from, made out of that footage that I will be making and will be editing and everything and getting uploaded. And it's funny because, if you know about me, shit, when I was out in California last year, I filmed like an entire year's worth of footage. Like, there's still footage that I filmed from California last year that I haven't done anything with. But I'm like, I'm harnessing my Native American genetics, and I'm like, it's like how my ancestors would use every part of the buffalo. I can go to fucking California and roll my camera for 5 minutes and find, 30 different uses for that footage. So that's pretty much where I'm at with that. There's going to be a lot of content coming, but it was a great experience, and I guess now I'm a real film guy. Now I could have a fucking IMDb page or whatever it's called. I could make a fucking Wikipedia page about myself or something now. I don't know, but it was pretty legit. Everything about it was great, and I got to shake hands with John C. Reilly. I'm pretty sure, well, I know him from a lot of roles, but, I'm pretty sure that was Dr. Steve Brule. He was in Step Brothers. He's been in he was actually been in more shit than I realized. But I got to see him perform some vaudeville type, like, crooner singing. Yeah, it was a very interesting performance, and so that was pretty cool. It was like a small venue, so it was maybe like a few dozen, maybe like 50 people max in the venue. So that was pretty interesting. That was pretty cool. But, as wonderful as that all is, yes, towards the end of my stay in California, I received the news that there was an incel terrorist attack. And I was like, what the fuck? And I got the picture. Somebody sent me the picture right after it came out of this, like the picture where there's like somebody taking a picture of a screen that's got the Facebook post by Alec Manassian on this, and I looked at that and I said, oh my gosh, that's just nonsense. That is just crazy. And of course, then you started to have a couple people that were picking up on the story and running with that image. And then, so there was people who, they're like, oh, you're getting baited by 4chan, you dumb fucks, you stupid journalist idiots. You're getting baited by 4chan. You're just, you're getting, tricked, you're getting trolled, right? And just, I can't, same shit that happened with me. The journalists, they see something they want, they eat it up, and they just don't give a shit, right? So I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. I can't believe they're buying into that crap. Oh man, they never learn. These idiot journalists, they never learn. They're foolish. They're falling for the tricks once again. And all of a sudden, then it kind of was like, it seemed really bizarre. People were saying, oh, the Facebook page, go back on the Wayback Machine. It was created just that day. Nobody never had added anybody. It was created that day and had that message on there. But apparently the message had come out before the attack. And so then that's like, well, it's pretty strange, why, who would know about this guy? Who would know who this guy is to have a fake picture out there and everything if it's before, the timestamp is before it happened? Very strange. But then you also have people who are saying, well, the guy was Armenian, he did the attack on the date of the Armenian genocide, that was really his real, true, reasoning behind the attack. This is just some kind of weird, like, distraction by the media, either for, like, could be, oh, well, he's an immigrant, or he's, like, he's not native Canadian born, or not, like, he's a different ethnicity, so they want to kind of, like, ball it up into something else. Or people are saying, well, we just had the Nexium satanic Hollywood tied sex slave cult that's, they're desperately trying to keep out of the news. They're desperately trying to, like, basically smother it and anything else. And so here, let's add, if we bring up this whole incel topic, oh, it's going to be, we can basically continue to demonize and ostracize, this particular group of people that we already don't like. We can just kind of, throw them under the bus and let's sit here and talk about how evil they are, while our charming, handsome Hollywood people who make millions of dollars are, back in the background, literally kidnapping children and fucking branding them with hot branding irons and fucking forcing them to be sex slaves. Let's not talk about that. Let's kind of bring out this show of these people that we already hate, so we can kind of just dunk on them and kind of shit on them and their whole lives. Maybe we'll agitate them into getting mad, so then we can run about, oh, they're mad, they call them all these names, bigot and blah 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 blah, you know, all of our made up bullshit terms, all of our buzzwords. So people out there, I mean, and to be honest, now I have also been told since this happened that, oh, people have told me, well, there was proof, you know, yeah, his Google searches were legit. Oh, people knew of him somewhere and they said, oh yeah, he had said something. I don't know. I can't say that I know. I'm not super familiar. Unlike, you know, for instance, last year we had the Vance Stone incident where this guy went and did a shooting, and that was somebody who had been on my channel. That was somebody who had been on in my live streams at a point for, even briefly. He never been one of my more regular viewers, but there was a point in time where he had come around and, you know, he had been in a couple of live stream chats to the point where, oh, I recognized his username, you know, even if just for so briefly. Or this one, you know, I was like, well, who, you know, even, you know, Elliot Rodger, he was known on, you know, people knew him to a degree from, you know, his usernames on Misk or PUA Hate or wherever. I just haven't really seen anything substantive yet about Manassian, but maybe somebody knows something I don't. In any case, of course, oh boy. So the news, they're like, oh, alright. Incel terrorism. Oh man, oh boy, we're hopping in, we're going in, diving in deep. And the funny thing is that some of the first posts that I saw, some of these first articles that I saw, you know, and of course, it makes sense to me because the attack happened in Canada, so, you know, you would imagine Canadians would be more focused on it, but I've never seen anything quite like, you know, because didn't Justin Trudeau give some, like, literally ISIS terrorist who had murdered people, didn't he give him, like, a bunch of money as, like, some kind of fucking severance package or something? You know, like, you had what was that, you know, the refugee firefighters, remember that shit? He fucking brings in all these, you know, of all the incompetent, stupid things that happen in Canada, it just doesn't seem like I hear much about it. Now, this could be confirmation bias on my part, since we're looking at this particular issue. You know, you had, like, you know, Justin Trudeau, if you kill your enemies, they win. That's been floating around for such time now. All these different things, all these different embarrassments, but now it's like suddenly this loose connection to incel men that this man maybe might have had has been, like, the most fucking explosive thing that has happened in Canada. You would think that it was, I mean, I guess I don't know how to, obviously, yes, people died, and that's, you know, a horrible thing. I mean, that should not be understated. Loss of life, you know, in an attack is a bad thing, but I mean, like, I don't remember, I mean, yeah, we had, it just seems like, I don't know, there's just something about it. There's just something about it. But the first articles that I saw, people were coming out and they were saying, oh, well, you know, I've been taking a deep dive into the seedy underbelly of Toronto for some time, so let me tell you about these alt-right, incel, Nazi, bigots, you know, and they just, like, start, like, slathering up all these buzzwords again, just going wild, you know. People don't seem to understand, and I don't think I'm gonna change anybody's mind that already has their mind set in a certain way, but incel, involuntarily celibate, that just means that you're trying to, you know, find yourself in a relationship with a woman. Now, it actually, yes, it does mean celibacy is, like, refraining from sex, and so, yes, you're involuntarily refraining from sex. You want to fuck, but you can't, you know, you're having difficulty making that a reality. And now the thing is that, I will say this much, if we're breaking down such etymology, that most of the people who are incel, in my opinion, in the current day, like, they aren't really, now I speak for a lot of people, and I'm also kind of disregarded, like, a lot of people don't see me as, like, cause I've had sexual relations, I've had a semi-long-term relationship in my past, so I'm not somebody who you could, I guess, call a true incel, although I do feel very strongly and sort of, having a synergy to a lot of incel things, so take my words with a little grain of salt here, I guess, but, like, for me, let me just say with me personally, I guess, like, I was able to, let's go back to when I fucked a chick for the first time. I was able to go and have sex with this woman. She, you know, essentially kind of, she even, like, sort of, initiated the sexual activity. But when I was finished with that sexual activity, this woman, she refused to have a relationship with me. She was not interested. She did not find me as somebody who she wanted to bring to the family. She did not find me as somebody who was, I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough for her to date. I mean, I guess she wanted to fuck me. I don't know. People told me, they're like, well, that's like the most Chad alpha thing. You get the pussy with no lockdown. You can just fuck this bitch and be gone. And I was like, no. It wasn't like that for me. You know what I mean? Like, let's just bring it up to like when I did have my first relationship, which was a total shit show. It was horrible. It was miserable. I was cheated on. I was treated like shit. I had things stolen from me. I had possessions of mine that were, damaged. All different kinds of things that went on. It was a horrible, horrible, terrible thing. But, by me being in that semi-long-term relationship, I had a connection to another human being, a closeness to another human being that I had never had in my entire life. I was never seen as an acceptable enough human being. I was never seen as good enough to be, like, even if I was having sex with a woman, like, fuck, I know that EggWars is deleted now, but there was a woman that I had sex with from meeting on 4chan back in early 2015, and she, while we were essentially having, like, a sexual encounter, or, like, having, like, a couple small series of sexual encounters, she just like, oh, you're not even worth my fucking time, you're a fucking dumb idiot loser. She said I was the stupidest, most autistic man she'd ever seen. She said I was totally, like, an idiot. I didn't know anything. I was totally, like, everything was cold to me, like, with knowing how to be social. Like, I just was basically there, and I was like, alright, well, she does remember. I remember that very much because, afterwards, she had like this freak out and this spaz out, and she posted a bunch of nude photos on 4chan before she sort of just disappeared off into nowhere land. Although she does seem to still exist because I still have her phone number saved on my Google account, and so because of that, the Snapchat app recommends people to me that like I have people in my contacts, and apparently she's still around. Like, I kind of worried about her honestly because she seemed like she was a little bit crazy, but I guess she's still around somewhere because she made a new Snapchat not that long ago. At least that's what my Snapchat app told me. Anyway, now I'm digressing a bit. But essentially, like, obviously sex is a big aspect, and, the virginity is a big aspect, and it's seen as like a test, right? If you are able to lose your virginity, then you are not incel, because some woman desired you to the point that you'll have guys who will say, it doesn't count if you pay to lose your virginity. I've even had some people who have said, if you're fucking like a 50-year-old, 500-pound single mother with, that's cross-eyed and, mentally deficient or something like that, you're still incel. You're not really, you're basically having to go like the lowest of the lowest of the low. If you have to pay, whatever, you're still not seen as a socially viable mate. You're still not seen as a socially viable male, and therefore, you're still seen as like the bottom of society, the bottom rung, the unattractive, the unwanted. And that's kind of what I think it comes down to, is like, I've made a video before, EggWars episode 12, making a black pillar, where I went and I talked through, what led me to the particular viewpoints, the particular thoughts on society and such that I had, after growing up and being in a certain way, in a certain, direction, and a lot of it was social ostracization. I keep saying ostracization. I'm not sure if that's even the right word. Ostracization. I don't know. I'm gonna keep fucking that up until I Google it and remind myself, but I was socially ostracized. I was socially isolated. I was diagnosed with autism. I was placed in special education classes. I did not fit. I mean? I was not somebody who was seen as a fitting individual. And so as a result, I sort of formed a, whenever I was sort of brought into the fold of normal situations, it usually ended very badly for me. And I was typically, mocked, I was pranked, I was humiliated, because I was just seen as like this outsider. So, I was brought in and kind of like made into like a joke of sorts, which even some people, have told me for years to follow, even when I was doing like some of these initial videos, like the black pill video and things of that nature. People told me, they were like, the only reason anybody follows you is because you're such an ugly idiot loser that everybody just wants to laugh at you for being so stupid and all these different things. And I was like, well, maybe so. But I've still, obviously nowadays, I think that number has probably dwindled to a small percentage of my viewers. as we tend to do a lot of live streams and some fun situations. There's really only usually a few rotten apples in the crowd. Or at least, people understand that I kind of operate a little bit differently in the current day. I kind of have a little bit of a different energy going on, a little bit of some different shit going on. They kind of just like, all right, well, I'm just going to kind of leave the picture then. And I've had some people who have done that. That's understandable. It just is what it is, man. It is what it is. But anyways, going back to some of the things that these people were saying about incel men. Like I said, basically just break it down. Men who have difficulty, they're isolated men. They're men who are not able to find themselves coming into a healthy social dichotomy where they're able to come into this situation and, be able to be, accepted members of, a social group and then, are ostracized. They don't have a close relationship. They don't have, they're not able to, find themselves being involved with the females they're attracted to. I guess maybe one more thing I should say too is that, I guess about my first relationship, it was something, it was like almost like taking a college course of sorts in how to interact with another human being in a close way like that. Because I had no idea. How are you supposed to know? You can't just, you can take a fucking pickup artist class, but a lot of that is a bunch of bullshit, honestly. That's why a bunch of guys you had PUA hate because, guys were sold a bunch of false hopes and dreams, and it came to realize that these game tactics were kind of just a lot of bullshit if you didn't have, the solid base of height, face, and frame to back it up. So anyway, but I didn't know, I'd never been in a situation where I was close to a person like that. So even though it was a horrible situation and it was a miserable time, it really opened my eyes and kind of opened me up to some things that I just didn't know before. It was kind of like, I don't know, I like to say it was like thawing. I was all frozen inside and I didn't know, I was totally cold to everybody. When I was in school, I hated school. I stayed away from everybody. I was by myself all the time. I tried to drop out of school. Ended up going to opportunity school for my senior year. Even there, I still was kind of cold to most people. And I've never been able to really maintain much of a social presence in real life. It just never really worked out. I just, there's too much that's been difficult for me to understand. And now, to be fair, I really haven't tried to have a lot of IRL social shit going on over the last couple years, after I split up with that woman who I was dating for a semi-long term amount of time when I found out that she had been sleeping with other men for some months in our relationship, and I told her to fuck off and go away forever. But anyways, so these men, they're just going online because they're frustrated about the state of their lives and, and how everything's just kind of fucked up and shitty, and they basically just go online to vent. Okay? It's good to vent, to let things out, to fucking let your emotions out. Shit, that's why I found 4chan to be unique in that regard. Obviously, I ended up being a trip fag and all that stuff, but, even when I was just going on there to vent anonymously, you could not go on to Wrong Planet or any of these other sites, even the advice board on 4chan. I tried to go on there sometimes, but it was you could not vent because you were just seen as oh, stop bitching, you fucking bitch. You weren't allowed, your venting of your frustrations was seen as distasteful or unpleasant. And so Wrong Planet, if you talked about, oh, I can't get a girlfriend, they'd fucking ban you or whatever. Advice, oh, well, you're probably some fucking incel loser. Who cares? Shut up, dweeb. You're a fucking loser. So obviously, places like R9K and some of these other boards, they became a way for, at least for me personally, I know they all had, there was functionality to these places outside of myself, of course. I'm sounding very self-absorbed there. But it was a place where I could go and I'd be like, damn, I just got humiliated again by another woman, and I'm very upset and I'm very frustrated, and I'm so pissed off, I'm so frustrated. There wasn't some middle-aged wine mom blogger from fucking CBC who was looking over every single fucking anonymous 4chan post I made with a magnifying glass and saying, oh my god, you're such a fucking loser. You're such a fucking loser. Oh my goodness, you're like a terrorist and shit. Oh, you're a fucking loser. You should, everybody point and laugh at the fucking loser. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that, thankfully. Obviously nowadays it's funny, I've been being approached by some media people now. and they're thinking I'm like, it's interesting. It's all very interesting, the timing that this all came about, because there's a man who I've talked about before named Q-Star, who was making videos with me. Like, I talked about before, like, he was making videos and using my face in the thumbnails, but then he actually started making videos where he was talking about me in particular. And, like, these videos, which I still have not watched the videos that he's made about me. I still really have not watched them, to be honest. But, just very small portions. But, like, these videos almost, like, ran PR for me personally, because I've had people from the media who've been approaching me, and, I've kind of been like, I don't know. I was in a kind of like a media mode coming back from California, but it didn't take long for me to sort of, have these people coming up to me and they're asking me all kinds of loaded questions and all this different stuff. But these videos that Q started almost ran like a little bit of a PR for me, because I guess he basically said, oh, by the way, Eggman's a normal guy, and he's a normal dude. He's a real normal, legit dude. And so, like, these people who were approaching me, and they're like, so, we understand you were ex-incel. You were on the inside of the incel shit. And I'm like, hey, listen, all right. It's true. I have not frequented a lot of these places in recent times because, there was a disconnect there. I was seen as, kind of like an attention seeker or whatever, to make videos with my face and have me being me and everything. So it's true I hadn't really been around there, but I mean, the way that I have been seeing these journalists in the media dogpile on incel men has been, it's been totally ridiculous, totally crazy to me, insane, and these people are also very, very stupid. I want to make that very clear. These journalists that I've been seeing making articles about these things, they are extremely, extremely stupid people. So, what was one that... Oh, yeah, so I saw one guy who had quite some positive feedback to what he was saying. Now, he was not a journalist, I believe, just some guy off Twitter. But he had said something along the lines of, if you're an involuntarily celibate man, well, why don't you just try being bisexual? There's a lot of men out there who are into men, and they'll have sex with you, And that's kind of really, like, that viewpoint, when I saw that, that really spelled it out for me, kind of what people see in incel men. All they think, these people, they operate on such a primal level of brain activity, such a base level of brain activity, that they think that, all these socially ostracized men, people who just, were rejected by, girls a bunch of times. They were, made fun of, teased, shoved in lockers, given wedgies, all this different stuff. I know that doesn't happen to everybody, but I'm just saying, guys who were essentially deemed by society, like, they don't, they were just, kind of pushed to the side. You think that, these men basically just, the idea is that, fuck, if this guy gets fucked, if this guy has sex with somebody, no matter what, that's instantly going to make everything better, And that's the way that fucking women already operate in our current day. That's why you have women who are getting fucking pumped and dumped, ran on the cock carousel, boom, 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 over and over again. Because they keep on thinking that, I'm just going to blow this guy, I'm going to let, Chad come and fuck me, and then I'm going to be elevated to the Chad level, I'm going to be elevated to his lifestyle, I'm going to be, this is how I get the life that I want, and then they get fucked and, tossed to the side, they got given a fake number, name, whatever like that, and so that's why you had these women, and then they try to turn this high sexual activity, like the sexual promiscuity, into like a thing of, I'm empowered and I'm a sex worker and I'm so empowered and shit. When it's not really the case at all. And if they are a sex worker, that's not being empowered. I don't care. Go ahead. You're 20 years old. You're an attractive young woman. Sure, go ahead and just fuck and have all kinds of sex and get sterilized by your birth control or whatever you're gonna fucking do. And come back to me when you're 50 and let's see how you're holding up when the number of women that age on antidepressants and who are alcoholics is skyrocketing in correlation with the marriage rates going like this, the birth rates going like this, all these women who get old and their fucking eggs dry up and they have nothing except decades of fucking around because it was empowered and liberating. Now they have nothing and they're fucking miserable and they're extremely bitter and unhappy and just hate their lives. And, and that's the thing is, like, I see women, like, I just feel like I'm seeing a lot of these women who are coming out and they're hating on incel men. Like, oh man, I feel like I'm kind of talking in circles a little bit here, but it's just ridiculous. And then you have women who they're going out and they're like, oh, the fact that men who are sexually frustrated exist is an attack on me. It's an attack on my common decency. I am at risk. I am at danger. All these men are just budding rapists and they're serial killers and all this shit. And I'm like, the funny thing is that if you lined up some pictures, if you took some pictures of like actual rapists and serial killers and fucking put them and showed them to a woman without any context, compared to your average socially awkward virgin male without any context, they would probably be more attracted to the criminals. I'm just saying, you know. But they suppose, they look at these men, you know, they look at these men who society has ostracized for being too socially awkward, or being maybe autistic, or being, you know, not physically attractive enough, they're not tall enough, they're not having a wide enough frame, whatever the case might be. You're going out there and you just, they're having, you know, because of the phalo effect and lookism and all this, they're just applying all the worst ideas and the worst traits and the worst shit they can possibly think of and just dropping it on them, just piling it on them because they just, oh, these men, oh my goodness, you know, they just hate them so much. And another thing is, you know, if we are to discuss, were there posts in these incel communities that supposed to have advocated violence? There has been posts like this. There's also been a good amount of evidence that suggests that when these posts are, you know, like on the incels subreddit before it was deleted, for instance, typically these kind of posts would come from like sock puppet accounts, trolls, women who are, you know, the incel tiers subreddit. I've never really browsed it. I don't really use Reddit, but this incel tiers subreddit, it thrives solely off of men being unhappy and to like get reactions out of, you know, socially ostracized men so that a bunch of women can go and circle joke over it about how superior they are because these men, you know, have been basically given the shit stick by society, pushed off to the side and fucking thrown in a dumpster somewhere. So how are you going to keep up, you know, how are you going to keep this content cycle up if you're not getting something more outrageous and more crazy and more wild and more insane? They go and make them, you know, the same shit when Wizard Chan got fucking false flagged for, what was that, Gamergate or whatever. Like, you know, women were going onto this website and posting their own pictures and like these different women were going on and basically making up all this shit about how much they hate. Oh, I hate that stupid bitch. Oh, I hate that, you know, and then like then screen capping it and saying, look what they were saying. I can't believe it. And it's easy to do, especially on Wizard Chain and places like that where it's anonymous. But, you know, even on Reddit, it's all you got to do is just make a fucking fake email and boom, get into it. You know, it's not difficult. But, I mean, just the general types of comments that I've been seeing from people about how they really feel about unattractive, socially awkward men, it's been very, very telling. Like I was on Twitter, and of course, there's all these different things. Oh, these guys are terrorists. They're losers, and they're all the worst things in the whole world. You know, everybody just hates their fucking guts. Everybody just despises them. And it's very telling. It's absolutely very telling, you know, because, I mean, it's one thing to, you know, to condemn Alec Manassian. You know, he was a murderer, okay? Absolutely. Fucking get, you know, he's a murderer. Condemn him to high heaven. Go ahead. But, like, I saw, you know, Jack Peterson, this guy who I've known for many years now, and he gave a couple of media interviews, and I saw some of the reactions to these media interviews. They were like, you know, they wanted to just start taking men like this, locking them up in camps. They're saying kill them all. Like honestly, they're saying, you know, it's eugenics. They're advocating eugenics because of incel men. And I can't even, like, I used to do writings back in the day. I used to do writings where this was like 6 years ago, where I would suppose the type of future that was going to happen. I was like, you know, I had never been on incel forums years ago. I was not, you know, there was nothing out there like that for me to be on. So when I was, you know, in high school in the early 2010s, when I was in college and everything, where I was asking out women on a very regular basis, I was doing cold approaches. I was trying to, you know, run different ways to try and approach women. You know, I didn't even know cold approach. I didn't even know social circle game. I didn't even know these terms. I was just living my fucking life. And I would notice that when I would get rejected by women, it was extreme. Like, they would go out of their way to be as cruel as possible. You know, like, I used to laugh so much. I mean, I can remember this was like back before even 2010. I remember being like in high school and just laughing about the notion that the worst thing that a woman would do if you asked her out would be say no. That never happened to me. I had women throwing things at me just for asking them out. I had women fucking pouring drinks on me. I had a bottle, when I was 21 years old at a bar, I had a fucking bottle go in front of my face like this, thrown at me. I had, all these different things. Just, I think around the time maybe I was 21, I was starting to get familiar with a guy who, I don't remember what the hell the guy's name is now, so you have to forgive me, but it was a guy who would go around, a pretty, decent looking guy, facial structure wise. And I apologize that his name is slipping my mind right now, but he would go around and basically like videotape himself interacting with women to the point where like there was posters being put up to like tell, hey, get this guy out of here. Like, if you see this guy, tell like trespassing signs and shit. There was a point in time where I thought that was going to be happening to me, because I would just go and be like, oh, hey, you want to go out and go get a drink sometime, maybe go out and get coffee, get lunch sometime. And the thing is, like, if you know about me, as time went on, I'm trying to remember. I think there was probably a couple times initially when I was younger, like high school age, where I, was not really, I was kind of shooting my shot a little bit high out of my league. But, around the time where I was finally just, like before I made the Black Pill video, when I was, really just trying out and trying to like feel out where I was like in the dating pool. And I was getting rejected by balding single mothers and women who were like actually, nothing against them, but I'm not trying to like sound like some kind of bigot who hates balding women and deformed women or whatever. I was just, I just figured, okay, hey, maybe I've been rejected by these women. I'm gonna kind of clean myself up a little bit. Maybe I need to whatever here. And they would tell me, oh, you don't make enough money. Oh, you're a fucking fat, ugly loser. All this stuff like that. So, I guess one of the things these people say, they're like, oh, well, all these rejections doesn't mean anything, nothing, nobody owes you anything, you're just entitled. I mean, okay, I understand that. I understand. Life is a bitch. Life is a bitch. You know what I mean? You don't get anything for free. You will have to, anything you want to do, you gotta bust your ass for it. Okay, I get that. But also, we're living in a society where our society is continuously tripping over itself to be as sensitive and politically correct as absolutely possible. Like, for instance, what is the number one fucking news story that I've had in my face for the last, 2 or 3 days now? Some random chick wore a apparently, supposedly Asian-styled dress to her prom, right? And it has been, some guy fucking quote-tweeted her and said, you stupid dumb bitch, you're wearing my, stop appropriating my fucking culture, bitch. Some guy like Jeremy Lee, and it was supposedly Asian-style dress, and this some Asian guy. And it gets hundreds of thousands of fucking likes and retweets and whatever. It's in fucking multiple news articles. She didn't back down, so that's, I gotta respect that. But, we're out here, and I'm just saying, I'm out here, if I wear a fucking straw hat or something that I bought at a Chinese gift shop or whatever, I'm gonna be fucking front page news. This guy's a fucking bigot. This guy's a sick bigot piece of shit. He's appropriating. You can't wear that, you fucking piece of shit. My culture is not your costume. Okay. Ooh, super sensitivity training. Okay, and then what? Then I go ask out 100 different girls, and they fucking throw bottles at my head and fucking pour drinks in my face and call me a fucking creepy loser. Then I go on to some fucking internet forum and I vent and complain, and all of a sudden the next day I wake up and the news is calling me ISIS. The news is calling me a fucking jihadist, a terrorist for complaining that, that I've basically have, not been succeeding in life the way that I would like to succeed. I'm not having the goal, the life, the lifestyle where I'm, having a long-term significant other. I'm complaining and just venting online, venting my frustrations at how, and the thing is that, it's going on, like I just have said a little bit earlier, this is all society in general. Like, the marriage rates are plummeting, the birth rate is plummeting, you have people that will come from other countries and they live, and then they're happier first generation they get here. They're more, just everything's better. They feel better. They still have a lot more kids than average. and they work hard and whatever, and then like the first generation of kids, they start swallowing this deteriorating culture that we live in, this sick, dying culture that we are steeped in, and they stop breeding. They start picking up social justice as like, they want to fucking devote their life, or I should say devote their life to like some social justice cause. They don't give a shit. They want to go around and have a bunch of sex and, with strangers and post a bunch of promiscuous nude photos on the internet, sell pornography and all these different things. It's kind of like, let's see here. Let's have a little big thinky here. Let's put the thinking cap on, right? We're having a society where, okay, well, I should say, I think overall I do believe violence is actually going down in society, but we're always told about, guns need to be banned. Guns are a horrible problem. They're terrible. We're living in this, society where, some guy might just snap and who knows what's going to happen, Well, here's the thing is that it's not guns that are making people snap, and it's not, it's not these things that people suppose they are. It's the fact that we have a deep-seated sickness and atomization. Nobody's connected to each other anymore. Families are split up young. There's a bunch of fucking people from broken families everywhere. There's all kinds of migration going on. There's unchecked illegal migration at the border. So people, that might have grown up in a town, now they don't even know anybody in their town. The town speaks a whole different language. They don't even know what's going on anymore. Like, they're just fucking fragmented from society. They're brought into a school system where, if we're talking about young men, men are basically told that they're monsters, they're evil. Male privilege makes them, they are taking advantage of everybody else. They're oppressive. They need to get on the progressive stack and basically bow down to every single woman that they see. All the whatever. They're basically fed all this bullshit in their head that makes them, why, this might get taken out of context here, because I actually did see, there was an article that somebody wrote where they were, talking about how evil incel men were, and there was one of the quotes that I remember reading from one of these incel topics was something along the lines of like, society hates my guts, why should I give a fuck what society thinks? And honestly, I'm out here trying to do good. I'm out here trying to be a better man. I'm out here, I'd like to eventually, settle down and have a wife and kids myself, if at all possible. But, I mean, honestly, like, yeah, fucking, it's like, the thing is, like, everybody, you bring this up to anybody, and they're like, oh, well, they're evil, white, heterosexual bigots, and so they should just learn that, women were oppressed for 1,000,000 years, and so, now it's our turn to fucking hurt them. It's our turn to do all these bad things to them, and they're gonna fucking like it. Well, I'm just saying, when you build everything to be like, you're basically, you're trying to make society like the most sensitive and politically correct possible. You're trying to make everything, nobody can ever step on anybody else's toes, or it's $1 million lawsuit. They're gonna have their fucking image smeared all over social media and regular media and everywhere, and everybody's gonna know this guy's a horrible person, this guy's a monster, this guy's a fucking racist, blah, 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 whatever. Or anybody who, ever does anything wrong, and then you just turn around and you see these men who are socially ostracized and are unattractive, and you just know that nobody's going to stick up for them. Nobody's going to say, there's nobody who's going to, you can just basically wail on them, just like you did when you were in school and you fucking shoved them in lockers or whatever. You're still going to, they're the outsiders, they're the outcasts, they're not the right kind of person, so you can just fucking wail on them and beat the shit out of them and let out all your frustration on them. Like, I've never seen such vitriol towards another human being in many, many years, because, like, when you're looking at posts from, like, 4chan and shit, a lot of that is trolling, a lot of that's hyperbole, but, like, people who are really advocating for, like, death camps for men who are too short, or men who are balding, or whatever, they're seen as, like, oh, well, it's natural selection at work, eugenics is actually good as long as it's getting rid of these incel men. Oh man, it's just crazy. It's just insane, and all of this off of, something that seems pretty suspicious, and like it might not even really be a legitimate thing. Like, it's just they've had this boiling hatred, underneath the skin for so long, and finally they feel like they have what it takes, an opportunity to just fucking just lash out and attack people. But I mean, I don't know. It's not good. It's just not good. I guess what it boils down to, like I said, is we're living. It's a sign of cultural deterioration. It's a sign of all these things. It's just a sign of a breakdown. Everything is breaking down, and I don't think anybody knows. Well, the thing is, like, people might know how to start correcting it, but they're not going to correct it. There's no way, like, it would be seen as so horrible to try and, like, for people to start putting measures into place that are going to be able to start trying to correct this situation. That's where the fucking black pill comes in. I'm like, well, I don't know. I was like, shit, I don't see it. When I made the video, I was like, shit, it ain't looking good. It ain't looking good. And to be fair, at least in my personal life, I mean, I'm trying to do better. Like I said, I'm trying to build myself in a more positive direction. But when this is the path we want to take, where, well, and another thing I saw, a woman who was actually a legitimate prostitute, she was coming out and saying that men who are involuntarily celibate should be banned from paying for sex because apparently they aren't pro sex worker. They don't support whoredom. They don't support the whoring. They don't support prostitution as a respectable choice that they want, women to be proud of, and therefore they should be banned from it. Only men who embrace sex work as this beautiful thing for women to, be standing on the fucking corner and whatever, and are selling their asshole on Twitter for $5 a month on Patreon. If you're not in love with that, then you're a fucking horrible bigot, and you just don't even deserve to even pay for sex. I mean, I'm telling you, maybe we'll get hit by a meteor or something, and people will fucking realize what actually matters, things that are real in this world, that actually have some fucking real, that means something, and not, but I don't know. It ain't pretty. It ain't pretty. And also, I want to say, this whole thing that's going on lately, I haven't paid much attention to it, honestly, but this whole Israel saying that Iran has weapons of mass destruction. Remember when they said Iraq had weapons of mass destruction? That turned out to be a total lie. That turned out to be just a total war for Israel's benefit that led to many dead Americans and a bunch of extremely high amounts of money and time wasted for everybody, and it was a fucking total shit show, and it accomplished nothing. Well, yeah, they're pretty much just trying to run the same shit again, except they just want more money. They want Israel to have billions of dollars of taxpayer money every year like they do. They want, they just want to fucking use the United States to be their puppet, as always, and so I'm completely opposed. It's total bullshit. It's complete bullshit, and it's ridiculous. And I will not go to war for Israel. I refuse, and I don't feel like any less of a man for saying that, because it does nothing for me. Our country is under attack here. Donald Trump cannot even stop, a caravan of illegal aliens that has been advertised on public television across numerous countries for however many days or weeks, and they still just walk right in. And you want me to go over and fucking put my life on the line for a repeat of a failed war that I've been alive to see fail once already? It's not going to happen. I know there was a lot of rambling here, but I think it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's a sign of the times. Oh, boy. I guess I probably don't have much else to say, honestly. I think it's just ridiculous. It's just, all I can say is, in defense of my brothers, do not submit to being feminized. Like I've seen, in the wake of this whole situation, basically a lot of people are coming out and saying like, oh, if you're a man and you don't just do things like have sex with other men to like try and fill this void, or you're not going out and trying to basically white knight women super heavily to be like, you don't want anybody to know you're an incel, so you just fucking these women want guys to come out. Like, well, if you think you're an incel, than just come out and be the most hardcore feminist possible. And that's like the way to solve this for some reason. Seems a little bit crazy to me. That actually reminds me of one other thing I was going to say. In the wake of this event, the other day I was on Twitter, and a bunch of people who I follow on Twitter were being attacked by Twitter users who are Asian men who come from the subreddit Asian masculinity. And now, as somebody who browsed Poll with some frequency, I know that on Poll there was always a lot of these guys who would come and, they have like this twofold system where they basically come out and say that, white men, they need to be like forcibly sterilized, or they need to be like, thrown to the trash heap because they're so oppressive and they have white privilege and all this different shit like that. But then they also come around and do like a double fold thing where they'll like, post a bunch of pornography that features Asian women or Asian men and, either Caucasian women or whatever, just non-Asian women and saying, this is proof that Asian men are very sexy and desirable. Now, I have nothing against Asian people whatsoever, like not even slightly, but it kind of seemed to like take off on the back of that Asian man insulting that child for wearing a supposedly Asian dress to her prom. Like, they were going around and saying basically this diatribe they had was, they were going around and calling like, calling a bunch of people incels, like this insult, like incel equals but bigot, evil, Nazi person. But then they were also going around and, they were corralling against Asian women and saying, like, if Asian women aren't marrying and breeding with Asian men, it means they have internalized white supremacy and internalized racism. They're posting all these studies or these news articles or whatever about, Asian women marrying, white men because they wanted more white-looking children or whatever. And they were really going off. I mean, they were like, fuck you, bitch. You fucking racist. You're internalizing racism, therefore you are a pawn of white supremacy and all this different stuff like that. And it's like, it goes to show you that there's a lot of men who would probably be classified as incel, but they try to work themselves into the leftist social circles and they try to, you had like Sam Chris, remember he was going, I forget even what he did exactly, but I know that he fell into that basket. And you just have guys like this who are going and they think, the more radical pussy hat wearer, supporter of cuckoldry, supporter of polyamory, supporter of whatever, like the further they can go into that, like they know that, they are involuntarily celibate men, but they try to spin it around as like, I don't even want to have sex with women because I respect women so much, I would never be sexually attracted to a woman. And they go on, it's just, it's very sad to see. It's a very sad mental breakdown that some of these guys have to try and do these mental gymnastics to justify their behavior. And like the more upset they get about their involuntary celibacy, like the more, they want to hate men even more and they want to, speak out even more and they go wilder and wilder and wilder and more radical with their social justice mantras because they're seen as, more acceptable, I guess, to the common palate to be like super social justice compared to like, basically saying fuck society, society's a piece of shit and it's fucking crumbling and, oh boy. I guess, it is what it is, I don't know what the best way to, mend these social fractures are, but, maybe it's possible. Maybe shit will start, I don't know, maybe we'll be able to, work towards better tomorrow. Maybe, women, if they start acting more like women, they stop being whores, and they start, this is just like, it's hard for me to see that happening because, like, anything you'd say, like, women should be more like this, you're gonna have, like, a million women come out and be like, oh my fucking god, you fucking bigot, women will do whatever they want, you can't say anything, women will always do whatever they want, and if you're not letting women do whatever they want and fucking completely, just act like maniacs every single day, then you're a major woman hater and you'll never do whatever, but then, it's guys, maybe they're studying and becoming more intelligent about the state of the world. Maybe they're working on their physical appearance to be, try to look smacks and everything like that. But, there has to be accountability on both sides. Women just think that, oh, I'm going to go and fuck 1,000,000 guys and have 100 abortions, and then, you know, once I'm 40 years old, that a handsome millionaire should just fall out of the sky and, you know, love me unconditionally forever. It was an article I was reading from an Australian news source not that long ago where it said, you know, women over 30, they're like begging men to come to Australia. They're like, oh, there's no men. There's no men in Australia. We're so lonely and we're all dying alone. And when you actually read the article, they're like, well, you know, he's got to make at least $300,000 a year. He's got to be at least 6'5". He's got to at least be this and this and this. And it's like, you know, that's what we're seeing here is that, you know, women get angry and they fucking rage and, but they don't want to be accountable for anything. They want to be responsible for anything. And, you know, men, they are, you know, we can improve ourselves, but, you know, once again, it's kind of like something where you have to just be going into it, like you have to be ready to start improving yourself and really seeking these things for a higher purpose in your own life, because if you're going out there and looks maxing and money maxing, whatever else, just really trying to get yourself in a good position, looking for a wife, you know, women of our society, they basically just don't give a shit. They just don't care about, you know, they think that they should be able to do anything and everything and have no consequences. They get the best of everything at all times. That's just how that's how a lot of them feel. And so, you know, I encourage all my brothers out there, all of my fellow kings, to always do the best they can in life, no matter what. You know, even if you are in an incel situation where society has looked down upon you, rejected you, shit on you, you know, for your own sake, always, you know, I would advocate, you know, bettering yourself and putting yourself in the best position in life for your own sake. But I can understand why a lot of guys are just, you know, saying, fuck it all, this is a bunch of bullshit, you know, there's no guaranteed reward, you know, you can do this stuff and go nowhere, you know, you could really try and better yourself and have this blow up in your face. So, I mean, I could understand the sentiment, but that's just my personal take on it anyway, that, you know, you should go ahead and do that for your own sake. I feel like there's one other thing I was going to say now, too, and I'm trying to remember what it was. Shit, I don't know if I can. I've been talking for quite a while now. Sorry. And if you don't know about me, I scratch my nose quite a bit. But I don't know. I mean, I guess this is something. One other thing too. Yes, there is one other thing that I want to add here for people who just don't get it. For anybody out there, journalists or whatever, that just do not get it. You know, I want to tell you about one particular situation that happened to me, a real life experience, real life example about this girl I had a crush on, like, it'd be like 7 years ago now. But kind of look into the mindset, you know, of what might be the thing that pushes a man from like into seeking like an incel type of community. So several years ago, there was this chick who I really had a crush on, and she was like Australian and Canadian, funny enough, or maybe she was like New Zealand and Canadian, but she was kind of like a goth type chick. You know, she was kind of an alternative kind of chick, but a little bit shy and kind of reserved at the same time. So I kind of had a crush on her. Now, I mean, I'm not obviously, you know, I get nagged to high hell about being an ugly fucker or whatever. Okay. She was not super out of my league. Like, she was not, like, I would say, man, she was probably like a 4, I guess. And at the time, you know, I was in pretty decent shape when we had interaction. You know, I was slimmer than I am now. But in any case, you know, I thought we kind of saw eye to eye. I thought we kind of got along. But, so, you know, we hung out quite a bit. You know, I knew she was a waitress at this restaurant I liked. We'd go and kind of, you know, we hung out a few different times. And I thought things were going really great. I tried to escalate it a little bit. You know, there was a little bit of flirtation going on back and forth. I didn't feel like it was one-sided. But I kind of, you know, it was taking some time for me to kind of, like, you know, hanging out, you know, it wasn't really like dating, but we're going out and taking her, you know, I'm taking her out to eat and whatever, you know, but it was kind of like, it was still like she wasn't fully convinced that I was, you know, that it was going to work or whatever. So it just kind of took some time. It was kind of going on and on. Anyways, eventually, I'm trying to think, it took some time for it to get to this point. It was maybe a couple months or whatever, but then all of a sudden this guy comes into the picture who, I was really similar to this guy. Like, he was a very nerdy type of dude. He was, you know, he was really into like a lot of the same gaming and things that I was. In fact, he was even more of a like hardcore gamer than I was. Like, he was really into like Minecraft, which I know it sounds crazy. Like, we were like, 19, 20 years old or whatever. And he was like super into Minecraft. Like, he was just like dedicated to it. So even like more, what you would consider maybe to be like socially strange compared to myself. But this man, he was tall, and he was a skinny guy, but he had very strong facial growth and symmetry, and so his facial structure was really, it was very, very strong, and he, much better than my own. Now, at the time, of course, I didn't really, have the knowledge of the science behind these sort of things that I do now, so I didn't consider it to be any kind of problem at all. I was like, okay, hey, cool, she's hanging out with him, okay, cool, whatever. Like, I've already been hanging out with her for this time now, so I'm sure I've still got a leg up in this race. And then within like 3 days, they were fucking and dating and all this stuff like that, and I became very upset. Because the thing is, it's like, if you're not somebody who understands, if you don't have the knowledge that I have now, where you're like, you understand what's going on with the world and how things operate with genetics and sexual attraction and all this stuff, like I didn't know back then, you're basically, you feel like you're pretty much getting like spit in the face, like this girl knows you like her, and she won't reject you. Like, I never had a problem with a woman who would just straight up tell me, I'm not attracted to you, I'm not interested. If that was the case, it was pretty gravy. Like, okay, alright, cool, then I'm just gonna, it never really came like that. It was never really a thing that came up very often. It would usually be like, oh, well, maybe you have a chance, but, maybe I want to buy me a new pair of shoes and maybe I'll think about it or whatever. Like, things like this where women would kind of try and twist you around their finger, and I don't think I ever bought anything, but like I'd take her out for dinner and that sort of stuff. So like I guess I was paying for some free meals for her or whatever. But it wasn't like, you were, you just didn't know, you didn't know that, she thinks you're an ugly fucking loser and that she wouldn't, would never in a billion lifetimes even lay one finger on you. That's just really the more common thing, is that a woman is gonna fucking kind of twist you around her finger. And then, if you get pissed off about it, then she has all that, here we go, that's the reason for me to say, oh, how could you? You're such a fucking horrible person. You're a piece of shit and all you want is sex and blah, 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 and fucking throw you to the curb. Meanwhile, some guy who she thinks is attractive enough, he says, oh, I just want to fuck you, and then she's immediately having sex with him. So, when it comes down to this sort of situation, like, men are not given the knowledge, they're not given the information that they need to understand from a young age of how these things are operating, how these relationships work, you know what I mean? They're not you're not having a guy, after puberty's over, you don't have a guy getting a fucking stamp on his forehead saying, you are ugly, you are a subhuman genetic trash, do not ever approach a woman. Like, this is kind of, seems like this is what people who are anti-incel are really hoping for, is that we can like somehow incorporate this into reality. But, you're basically, if you're an unattractive man, I mean, look at how many fucking men are giving all these women online all kinds of money on Twitch and Patreon and whatever, with the hope that it's going to lead somewhere for them. Like, oh, I love her. Look, she must know how much I love her because I gave her $10,000 on Patreon or whatever. And then, of course, if you ever bring that up to a woman, oh my goodness, I owe you nothing, whatever. But, and, okay, sure, let's say they don't owe a man anything, just for existing. But when you have women, like, this is their MO to sort of like, keep men in their back pocket, to keep backup men, or to keep like men on the side to feed the attention or buy her gifts or whatever. And then the guy, there's a very good comic out there that I don't know if I have handy right now, but basically where you have like a woman who's like bent over between a partition, and like on one side she's like, oh, having a bunch of like men giving her shit, and in the back she's got like a fucking bad boy who's fucking, tearing that coochie up. It's very much like that, and when guys realize that, it makes them bitter about the whole situation as well. So maybe if we could, it's hard for people to swallow, it's a hard reality to swallow that, you might be, genetically inferior. But I think that if we were able to make that, maybe try to approach it in a, maybe in sex ed, maybe they could like work it in there somewhere and be like, oh, by the way, if you have small, weak bones, women are going to hate you for the rest of your life. I don't know, see, that's part of the thing too, is like, I think it's gonna upset this dichotomy that women want, where they have no expectations, no responsibility, no repercussions for, unsightly, unseemly behavior, but they also want everything that they possibly can. They want all the rewards, and they want everything that they could possibly get, and then not have to really, have to have it. They can get it both ways, right? I guess, I don't know, I could probably just keep rambling about this forever, but I suppose it has been over an hour now, so I could probably go ahead and cut it there, but I guess I don't know what to say, man. People who fucking hate incels, they want, they think eugenics is good, and they want, all short and unattractive men basically put in death camps. And the media is really, really stupid, and they think that fucking memes are reality. They think that memes are like this. Everything to them is misogynist, and I don't know. I find it hard. I find it hard to believe that, as long as the media and everything has a vested interest in sort of deconstructing and destroying Western culture and civilization, that they probably aren't going to really be too concerned with trying to make good and start repairing relations between, men and women, or whatever the case might be, that would help to start building, society back to a better state. I'm just not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everything will be real gravy, but who knows? All right, but I guess I'm going to cut it there since I could go on about this forever. But I think that'll be good. All right, well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Egg Wars, my friends. Kind of a heavy episode, but hopefully, I don't know. I guess where is the hope? Hopefully, the fucking media and all this shit will just back up off our nuts and let us try and fucking max everything we possibly can to try and get what we can from society without having them put having us looking down the barrel of a fucking gun and calling, I don't know. Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. I guess we'll just see what happens. All right. Until next time, my friends, I'll catch you later and have a great day.
Sounds from the void.